Commander Jack Harlow stood at the viewport of the diplomatic vessel, watching the alien world grow larger. The Vexari homeworld looked beautiful from space, swirls of deep purple oceans and emerald landmasses. His reflection showed a man with tired eyes and a stern jaw. 2 minutes to landing, Commander, said Lieutenant Gomez from behind him. Jack nodded. Is the team ready? Yes, sir. First contact protocols in place. Weapons secured as requested by the Vexari. Jack frowned. He didn't like being unarmed, but Earth needed this alliance. The war with the Centauri had stretched human resources thin. New allies meant survival. The ship descended through clouds into a vast clearing surrounded by structures that looked like giant bone-white thorns. A welcoming party waited below, tall, muscular beings with scaled skin and amber eyes. The Vexari. Remember, Jack told his team as they prepared to exit, these are apex predators. Watch their body language, not just their words. The diplomatic team of 12 humans walked down the ramp into the warm, strange air of an alien world. The Vexari delegation approached, led by a massive individual with elaborate markings across its chest. I am Krav Thul, Alpha of the Western Reach, it said through a translator. We welcome humans to our world. Ambassador Wells stepped forward with a practiced smile. We bring greetings from Earth. We hope this meeting begins a lasting friendship between our peoples. Jack watched the Vexari carefully. While Wells spoke of peace and cooperation, Jack noticed how the aliens' eyes tracked every human movement. Their claws remained extended. Their posture seemed ready to spring. The formal meeting took place in a vast chamber with walls that seemed to pulse with light. The human delegation sat across from the Vexari leaders at a long table made from some kind of polished bone. As Wells droned on about trade possibilities, Jack noticed movement in the shadows. Smaller Vexari, cubs he guessed, watched from hidden alcoves. One in particular stared at him with unusual intensity. We can offer medical technology, Wells was saying, in exchange for access to your ship drive systems. The Alpha Krav Thul nodded slowly. This seems fair. We have much to share with humans. Jack saw it before anyone else. The young Vexari cub slipping from the shadows, moving with frightening speed toward the human delegation. Its eyes locked on the throat of Dr. Chen, their medical expert. Jack moved without thinking. He lunged across the table, intercepting the cub mid-leap. They crashed to the floor in a tangle of limbs. The cub snarled, razor teeth inches from Jack's face, claws slashing at his chest. Instead of fighting back, Jack held the cub firmly but didn't hurt it. He locked eyes with the young predator and didn't flinch. The room froze. The Vexari delegation watched, hands near concealed weapons. Then Jack did something unexpected. He smiled at the cub and said quietly, "Nice try." He released the young Vexari, who backed away, confused by the human's reaction. Krav Thul approached slowly. You could have killed the cub, why didn't you? That's not why we came here, Jack said, standing despite the bleeding scratches on his chest. The Alpha studied Jack with new interest. Most prey species would have reacted with fear or violence. We're not prey, Jack replied evenly. The tension in the room shifted. The Vexari looked at the humans differently now, with something that might have been respect. The diplomatic meeting resumed, but Jack couldn't shake a feeling of unease. The attack felt like a test, and something in the Alpha's eyes suggested they had learned exactly what they wanted to know. 3 months later, when the Vexari fleet appeared without warning above Earth's orbital defenses, Jack remembered that look. By then, it was already too late. The Defiance shuddered as another blast hit its shields. Captain Jack Harlow gripped the command chair as warning lights flashed across the bridge. Shields at 30%, called out Navigator Chen. 1 year. 1 year since the Vexari had revealed their true intentions. 1 year of watching human colonies fall one by one. Evasive pattern Delta, Jack ordered. Get us behind that moon. The experimental warship responded instantly, engines burning hot as it dove toward the cratered surface of Titan's smallest moon. Behind them, 3 Vexari hunter ships followed, their weapons charging for another volley. They're gaining, Captain, said Lieutenant Rodriguez at Tactical. Jack studied the tactical display. Release the mines. The Defiance dropped a cluster of stealth mines as it skimmed the moon's surface. Seconds later, explosions lit up the darkness. One Vexari ship disintegrated. Another spun out of control. That bought us some time, Jack said. Status on the breeding facility? Dr. Allison Reeves looked up from her station. Her dark hair was pulled back tightly, her face showing the strain of months on the run. Scans confirm it's a Vexari hatchery, she said. Built inside the old mining colony. At least 50 cubs, maybe more. Jack nodded. Intelligence had been right for once. The Vexari were using abandoned human outposts to expand their numbers. This could be our chance to understand their biology, Allison added. If we could capture a specimen— We're not here for science, interrupted Commander Briggs, Jack's second in command. We should bomb the facility and leave. Jack considered both options. Earth Command wanted the facility destroyed, but they also needed advantages in this war they were losing. We're going in, he decided. Small team. We'll place charges but also gather intel. 20 minutes later, Jack led a squad of 6 through the airlock of the mining colony. The air was thick with an alien smell, musky and sharp. The walls of the human structure were covered with a strange, resin-like substance. Stay alert, Jack whispered. Vexari adults will fight to the death to protect their young. They moved deeper into the facility, passing empty human quarters now transformed into alien nests. In the main processing chamber, they found what they were looking for. Dozens of Vexari cubs moved about in large, transparent enclosures. Some were tiny, barely larger than a human hand. Others were nearly adolescent, practicing hunting moves on each other. Plant the charges, Jack ordered. 5-minute timer. As his team worked, Jack noticed one cub watching him intently. It was smaller than the others, with unusual markings on its face. It didn't snarl or show aggression. It simply observed. Suddenly, alarms blared throughout the facility. We've been spotted, shouted Rodriguez. Adult Vexari approaching from the south entrance. Charges set, reported Briggs. Fall back to the ship, Jack ordered. As the team retreated, Jack heard a sound behind him. The small cub had somehow escaped its enclosure and was following them. Captain, behind you, warned Allison. Jack spun, weapon raised. The cub stopped, tilting its head curiously. In that moment, Jack made a decision that would change the course of the war. We're taking it with us, he said, holstering his weapon. That's against protocol, Briggs protested. It could help us understand them, Allison said, already moving toward the cub. Make it quick, Jack ordered. Allison used a capture field to secure the young Vexari. It didn't resist. They barely made it back to the Defiance before the charges detonated. The ship rocked as they pulled away, a Vexari battle fleet appearing on long-range sensors. They tracked us, Briggs said grimly. Jack stared at the tactical display showing 12 enemy ships closing fast. Take us into the asteroid field, he ordered. It's our only chance. As the Defiance plunged into the dense field of spinning rocks, Jack glanced at the captured Vexari cub now secured in a containment field. Its eyes met his, intelligent and calculating. Jack couldn't shake the feeling he'd just changed the rules of the war. He just wasn't sure if it would save humanity or doom it. Jack opened his eyes to the harsh lights of the medical bay. Pain shot through his chest and left arm. The asteroid field escape had nearly killed them all. He remembered pushing Lieutenant Rodriguez out of the way when a power conduit exploded on the bridge. Welcome back, Captain, said Dr. Allison Reeves. She checked his vitals on the monitor above his bed. You've been out for 3 days. The ship? Jack asked, his voice rough. Limping along. We lost Engine 2 completely. Lieutenant Rodriguez has us on a stealth trajectory toward the Ganymede outpost for repairs. Jack tried to sit up but winced at the pain. 4 broken ribs and severe burns, Allison explained. You need to rest. The Vexari cub? Allison's expression changed. That's something you need to see for yourself. When Jack could finally walk, Allison led him to a secure lab at the rear of the ship. Through a transparent barrier, He saw the young Vexari moving around a habitat designed to mimic its natural environment. "We've named him Razor," Allison said. "Watch this." She pressed a button on a console. A simple puzzle appeared in the habitat. A food reward locked inside a complex box. The cub studied it for only seconds before solving it with precise movements of its claws. "That's the 12th different puzzle it's solved," Allison said. "Its intelligence is off the charts." Jack stepped closer to the barrier. The cub immediately noticed him and approached. No aggression, just curiosity. "There's more," Allison said. She activated a small device on her wrist. "Razor, identify." The cub made a series of clicks and growls. The device translated, "Human, Captain, not enemy." Jack stared in shock. "It's learning our language?" "Faster than we're learning theirs. But that's not the most important discovery." Allison showed Jack her research data. The Vexari have a biological weakness. Their sensory glands can't process certain frequencies. It overloads their nervous system, temporarily paralyzing them. "A weapon," Jack said. "A non-lethal one," Allison corrected, "and Razor showed me this voluntarily." Jack looked at the cub with new interest. "Why would it help us?" "I think it's a runt. See these markings?" She pointed to the unusual patterns on its face. "In their pack structure, it would be rejected, possibly killed. Razor seems to understand we're different." Over the next week, as the Defiance continued its slow journey to Ganymede, Jack spent hours observing the young Vexari. Sometimes Razor would simply watch him. Other times it would demonstrate Vexari hunting techniques or pack behaviors. "They attacked us because they feared us," Jack said one day as he and Allison watched Razor sleep. "Their entire society is built on eliminating potential threats before they become actual threats." "Preemptive survival," Allison agreed. "But Razor is showing us there could be another way." The ship's comm system interrupted them. "Captain to the bridge. Priority message from Earth Command." On the bridge, Commander Briggs looked grim. "They want us back immediately, with the specimen." The message was clear. Earth's military leaders wanted the biological weakness Allison had discovered. They planned to develop a weapon to use against all Vexari. "Set course for Earth," Jack ordered, his face unreadable. When they arrived 2 weeks later, the reception was cold. General Harris met them in a secure hangar, surrounded by armed guards. "The specimen will be transferred to our research facility," he said, without greeting. "Your crew is confined to base until debriefing is complete." "Sir," Jack began, "I believe there's an opportunity here beyond weapons development. The cub has shown—" "Captain Harlow," Harris cut him off. "You've done your part, now let us do ours." As the military science team approached to take Razor, alarm klaxons suddenly blared throughout the base. "Perimeter breach," shouted a security officer. "Multiple contacts." On the external monitors, Jack watched in horror as a Vexari stealth ship decloaked directly above the base. Somehow they had followed the Defiance to Earth. "They're not after the base," Jack realized with sudden clarity. "They're after Razor." Chaos erupted across the base. Alarms wailed as soldiers rushed to defensive positions. The Vexari attack team moved with terrifying speed, cutting through the outer perimeter like it was paper. "Get the specimen to secure holding," General Harris barked at his science team. They grabbed Razor's containment unit and hurried toward the underground bunker. Jack reached for his sidearm. "Sir, I need to go with them. I understand the cub better than anyone." "Negative, Captain," Harris said. "You're needed on the defense line. That's an order." Jack watched helplessly as Razor was taken away. The young Vexari's eyes locked on his until the doors closed. The base shook as Vexari weapons hit the outer shields. Jack joined a squad of Marines at the main entrance. Through the reinforced windows, he saw 3 Vexari warriors advancing, their armor gleaming in the emergency lights. "Hold your positions," Jack commanded. "Aim for the joints in their armor." The battle was brutal and quick. The Marines fought bravely, but the Vexari moved too fast, their reflexes too sharp. Within minutes, they had breached the main hall. Jack took a hit to his shoulder, the pain blinding him momentarily. When his vision cleared, he saw the Vexari had moved past them, ignoring the humans in favor of pushing deeper into the base. They're heading for the labs, Jack realized. He tapped his comm. Dr. Reeves, do you copy? Static. Then Allison's voice came through, breathless. Jack, they've taken Razor, but something's wrong. They're not treating the cub like one of their own. They're treating it like a prisoner. Jack's mind raced. Where are you? Level B, near the detention center. Jack, there's something else. I found evidence that someone on our crew has been feeding information to the Vexari. That's how they found us. A traitor. Jack felt cold anger rise in his chest. Stay hidden. I'm coming to you. Jack moved through the damaged corridors, avoiding both human security and Vexari warriors. He found Allison hiding in a maintenance closet near the detention level. Look at this, she whispered, showing him her tablet. Communication sent from the Defiance to an unknown receiver. Star charts our course, details about Razor. Can you trace who sent them? Allison nodded grimly. I already did. It was Lieutenant Paul Winters. Jack felt like he'd been punched. Paul was his second in command, his friend for 5 years. They'd fought together since the war began. That's impossible, Jack said. The evidence is clear, Allison insisted. And there's more. I hacked into the security feed. They've taken Razor to interrogation room 3. They're hurting him, Jack. The security feed showed a black ops team surrounding the young Vexari. They were using some kind of neural probe, and Razor was clearly in pain. They think it knows Vexari military secrets, Jack said in disgust. It's just a cub. They made their way to the interrogation section. Jack used his captain's override to access the security doors. They were almost there when a voice stopped them. I can't let you do this, Jack. Paul Winters stepped from the shadows, weapon raised. Why, Paul? Jack asked, his voice tight with betrayal. We trusted you. They have my family, Paul said, his face twisted with grief. My wife and daughter were on Colony 7 when it fell. The Vexari didn't kill them. They took them. So you made a deal, Allison said. Paul nodded. Information for their lives. I'm sorry, Jack. We can help you, Jack said, taking a step forward. We can find them together. It's too late for that. Paul's finger tightened on the trigger. The Vexari are launching their final assault on Earth right now. They're already in orbit. As if to confirm his words, the entire base shook violently. Emergency lights flickered. I have to choose my family, Paul said, tears in his eyes. You would do the same. Jack lunged forward just as Paul fired. Pain exploded in Jack's side, but he kept moving, tackling his former friend to the ground. As they struggled, Allison slipped past them toward the interrogation room where Razor was being held. You don't understand what you've done, Jack gasped, blood soaking his uniform. The Vexari won't keep their promise, they never do. Paul's eyes widened with sudden doubt. Above them, the sound of Vexari ships grew louder as Earth's last defense line began to fall. Jack pressed his hand against his bleeding side as he staggered to his feet. Paul lay unconscious on the floor, knocked out during their struggle. The base shook again as another Vexari bombardment hit the shields. Jack, Allison called from the interrogation room. I've got Razor. Jack limped through the doorway. The Black Ops team lay scattered on the floor, stunned by the neural disruptor Allison had used. In the center of the room, Razor crouched in a defensive posture, injured, but alive. We need to move, Jack said. The main Vexari fleet will be here any minute. Allison helped Jack while Razor followed them willingly. The young Vexari's eyes showed intelligence and something Jack hadn't seen before. Trust. I have a plan, Jack said as they reached the communications center. But it's probably suicide. Those are my favorite kind, Allison replied with a grim smile. Jack activated the long-range transmitter. This will broadcast directly to the Vexari command ship. Razor, can you help me speak to your Alpha? The young Vexari made a series of clicks and growls. The translation device on Allison's wrist converted them. I know how. Alpha will listen. Jack nodded. Then let's end this war. 20 minutes later, a shuttle launched from the base toward the massive Vexari flagship that now loomed in Earth's orbit. Inside, Jack, Allison, and Razor sat in tense silence. They're allowing us to dock, Allison said, checking the instruments. Your crazy plan might actually work. The Vexari respect strength and hierarchy, Jack said. Razor taught me that. Their entire society is built on challenge and dominance. The shuttle docked with the Vexari ship. When the airlock opened, they were met by 6 towering Vexari warriors, their weapons trained on the humans. I seek audience with your Alpha, Jack announced, standing tall despite his injury. By right of challenge. The warriors looked at each other, clearly surprised. One stepped forward, its translator converting its growls to English. Humans have no rights here. You will be executed. Razor suddenly moved forward, positioning itself between Jack and the warriors. It snarled aggressively at Jack, showing its teeth. The Vexari warriors stepped back, confused by this display. The cub challenges the human, one said. This is unexpected. Jack didn't flinch from Razor's display. Instead, he smiled and said calmly, Nice try. Razor immediately stopped snarling and stood beside Jack. The young Vexari had just demonstrated to its kind that Jack was worthy of respect. Take us to your Alpha, Jack demanded again. They were escorted to a vast chamber at the heart of the ship. The Vexari Alpha, larger and more fearsome than any Jack had seen before, sat on a raised platform. Its scales gleamed with metallic implants that enhanced its already formidable presence. You are bold, human, the Alpha said, its voice deep and threatening. Coming here to die. I come with a challenge, Jack replied. According to your own laws, I have the right to face you in combat. If I win, the Vexari will leave Earth space forever. The Alpha laughed, a sound like grinding metal. And when I kill you, human, then you prove what we already know. That Vexari only understand violence. The Alpha rose to its full height, nearly 3 meters tall. I accept your challenge. What followed was brutal. Jack, already wounded, fought with everything he had. The Alpha was stronger, faster, its claws tearing through Jack's armor. But Jack had studied Vexari fighting techniques through Razor. He knew their weaknesses. The battle seemed hopeless until Jack activated the device Allison had prepared. A targeted sonic emitter that hit the exact frequency of the Vexari sensory glands. The Alpha faltered, momentarily paralyzed. Jack seized his opportunity, pinning the massive creature to the ground with its own ceremonial blade. I could kill you, Jack said, breathing hard. But that's not why I came. Instead of delivering a fatal blow, Jack stepped back. I came to show there's another way. Predator and prey can coexist. Razor taught me that. The chamber was silent. Then Razor stepped forward, addressing the Alpha in their native tongue. The young Vexari explained how humans had spared it, learned from it, treated it with respect despite being enemies. Slowly, the Alpha rose. You fight with honor, human. Perhaps there is wisdom in your words. 1 year later, Jack stood on the observation deck of the new joint human-Vexari space station. Beside him, Allison watched as a group of human and Vexari children played together in the station's garden. Still hard to believe, she said. Jack nodded. Peace is always harder than war. Razor, now nearly adult-sized, joined them at the viewport. The former cub had become the first Vexari ambassador to Earth. New ship arrives soon, Razor said through its translator. First joint patrol. Jack smiled. The predator that had once snarled at him was now his closest ally. Together, they had shown both species that the future belonged to those brave enough to trust.